right. So, Emil, you have been on the carnivore diet now for around 5 weeks, and you have most likely read a bunch of studies saying that red meat is bad for you. You have had a few thoughts about red meat before starting carnivore. What has changed now being on the carnivore diet and doing your own research, if anything?
Yeah, so definitely a lot, definitely a lot. So before I was definitely uh, a bit skeptical, to the whole fact that red meat would cause all of these problems, but still I didn't know any better. So I usually just went with what the mainstream said and what the mainstream narrative was. Because of course, if you hear something from every single outlet, every single source you hear, of course there really wasn't anything challenging
Yeah.
that view, to be honest, if you don't dig deeper yourself. But
Yeah.
if you don't even have the root, like the seed in your brain, to start digging a bit deeper, how could you get those new ideas and think critically about something if you don't even have, if you really never even have thought about it in like a deeper sense? But recently I've definitely read a bit more into these studies and all of these things that I before used to just mostly blindly believe. And it has definitely changed my mind about this whole thing in general, because back then I used to trust the science, basically, that these people who do these studies know the best and you should trust what they say. But now looking back, of course, that shouldn't always be the case, because at least in the case of red meat, some of these studies are so badly made that
Yeah.
there isn't really, the outcome of them doesn't have any weight at all, and you
Yeah.
can't really trust it and use it as evidence of anything. Like, for example, the diabetes studies, the meta-analysis of the diabetes studies, where uh, they the result was that red meat might cause a 10% increase in the risk of diabetes. But then also included in the study, they said that the people who consume the most red meat are also the ones who are most likely to have a lot of other bad and unhealthy life habits, such as smoking, being overweight, and just drinking a lot of alcohol and all of this stuff in general. And then when you compare it to, for example, stuff like obesity is a 4.5% or 4.5 times risk factor, or 400 and almost 450% risk factor for diabetes, type 2 diabetes. So what's the real root cause here? Will you get diabetes from a possible 10% increase
Yeah.
from eating red meat, when it didn't even find any kind of or they didn't come up with any evidence of what the physical mechanics of why red meat would even cause such problems? They just uh, got the consensus from these studies, which basically are just questionnaires where they ask people what they eat. And for example, if you eat 20 cheeseburgers a week, yes, that's 2 pounds of red meat, but that's also 20 cheeseburgers with a bunch of added empty carbs. And the root cause of diabetes is, of course, the empty carbs and just being obese and overweight in general, which is, I think, a very big problem in today's society. And a lot of the stigma around the carnivore diet comes from the fact that red meat is used as a very big scapegoat, and a lot of the problems that is scapegoated on the red meat and just animal-based foods in general, such as eggs, which have been touted as a very bad thing for your cardiovascular health if you eat too many of them, because they would raise your cholesterol to dangerous levels, which would cause cardiovascular disease and plaque buildup in your arteries and stuff like this, which is completely untrue.
Yeah.
But still, uh, I think there is some kind of underlying cause, because it's obviously very deceiving And when you start digging a bit deeper, you start getting a bit more critical about all of these things yourself, you can start seeing the cracks open and really start to see that all of these studies, all of these things are standing on very shaky ground, and the evidence doesn't really add up and make any kind of sense why red meat would be the cause of all of these problems, when in reality there are many other factors which, even if red meat would cause any kind of risk increase, there are so many other factors which just are the lower hanging fruit in the tree, which you should be taking care of first.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, there are definitely, I think that's a pretty good saying, like the low hanging fruit. There are definitely things that you could look at that are very much more likely to cause all these problems than red meat. So I think you make very good points. Like there's basically no good evidence of red meat being bad for you in any way, and it doesn't make sense either. And it's always correlational. You always have the healthy user bias, and I think it's sad to see how mainstream media, how doctors, every institution, get so engaged with these studies. Immediately when a study drops, even if it's not scientific at all, even if the data is on very shaky ground, they immediately just pick it up and just spin it out of context, and then for most people will of course believe it, and you couple that with your doctor believing it and telling you that this is the way to go. I mean, of course people are going to follow that.
And if I can add to that, like just real quick, there are all of these headlines which come out, which is like just eating 2 slices of ham a day could increase your risk of getting diabetes in 10 years by 50%. And like usually these headlines are so out of context and just to shock people, get clicks, get views, and make them add money. And there is really no truth to that. If you want to really find out the truth about something, you need to dig deeper, think more critically, and read between the lines, and you will definitely notice some cracks opening, because it's not as one-sided as the mainstream evidence says it is.
Yeah, 100%. And earlier we also talked about just brain health overall. And as you've also noticed, when you start to carnivore dieting, you start feeding your body and your brain all of these nutrients that are absolutely vital for you, and you start actually giving your brain all of the vitamins it needs. You really improve your mental health. Your brain fog starts going away. You have all of a sudden you have mental clarity, you have energy, you are able to concentrate. A lot of great things happen for your body and brain, and then I think it's very interesting to compare that to a lot of vegans, to a lot of people who are not eating lots of meat. And I think, I mean, that's not any study or anything, that's anecdotal data. But I think most people can agree that there's a big difference in how carnivores, for example, feel, talk, and the way they just live their everyday life. And then if you talk to a vegan or someone who really doesn't eat a lot of meat, how they usually react. Because I don't know any vegan who would be 100% stable and very happy overall. Like most of them have, unfortunately, some sort of mental problem or a little bit unstable or something. And I'm not blaming them necessarily for it, because I respect vegans in the way that they're actually trying to become healthy. I know that there are lots of carnivores who have been vegan in the past because they've tried all of these different diets. And I myself, I have never tried the vegan diet, but almost every other diet I've tried because I wanted to fix my health problems, which now I found in carnivore. But I understand where they're coming from. They're trying to do the right thing by eating a vegan diet, or if it's for ethical reasons, that's another topic. But they're essentially trying to do the right thing, but the results are really not speaking for themselves. Have you noticed the same thing?
Yeah, so 100%, like And this is also something I've noticed before. I've always been someone who's not very open-minded to trying out the vegan diet because I love meat so much. But
Yeah.
just in general, like most of the people I've met, for example, in my old school, there was quite a bit of people who did not eat meat. And I think in general, when you just do a bit of pattern recognition, in my own experience, I've definitely noticed the fact that people who leave out meat and animal products from their diets are in general a bit more volatile, maybe just not 100% all there, a bit unstable at times. And as you said, of course, I respect the fact that what they're doing is trying to become healthier, fix their health, and or become more ethical or stuff like that. Because for them, it of course like morally feels right and like they are doing the right thing. So I respect that in a sense, but it's sad to see that the propaganda and just the narrative out there has made this almost dangerous diet so mainstream, so
Yep.
popular, and they are really trying to push it on people. Like, for example, here nearby, they are trying to make schools give up red meat completely. They are trying to make kids at school have more a vegetarian lunch. For example, also in the military, they are replacing some of the food with vegetarian food. And this is to the most common, excuse is to make it more ethical for environmental reasons. But then when
Yeah.
you look at the fact that, okay, it's veggie day in school, what happens? No one eats food. Everyone goes to the nearby pizzeria or the nearby grocery store and buys some snacks, some pizza. Is that more environmentally friendly? Is that healthier? Also
Yeah.
in the military, in my own experience, I did this as well because no one ate the vegetarian food
Yeah.
as much as you maybe should. And as you know, in the military, you need a lot of stuff to eat.
Yeah.
And the vegetarian food just isn't enough to fuel your body in the
Yeah.
way that you need. So this, of course, led to us going and buying some unhealthy snacks in the evening to get some more energy because vegetarian food isn't always maybe the tastiest.
Yeah.
Of course, it can be made to taste good, but it's still lacking in essential nutrients that your body needs to
Yeah.
be able to function at 100% capacity.
Yeah, definitely. And it's pretty obvious that um is there a reason for why your body kind of recognizes that this vegan or vegetarian food isn't very good? Like most people don't really like broccoli that much. Of course, it's a man-made plant basically that we are eating today. And it's really I think everything comes down to your body, and you should really pay more attention to what your body kind of craves and needs. Like, of course, if you're on a standard American or Western diet and you eat a bunch of carbs, which are like made in the lab, well, of course, you can't trust your instincts then. But especially when you only eat whole foods, you only eat a carnivore diet, you can eventually start trusting your instincts a lot. And this has kind of been an eye opener for me as well, because now I can trust my instincts pretty well. Like, do I need more fat? Do I need more salt? And you can actually start listening to your body, and I think that's a beautiful thing. And to touch on the thing about schools thinking of and debating if they should just go totally meatless, I think that is very concerning. I heard that in Australia there are schools that have already done it, so it's not just meatless Monday or twice a week without
Mm.
meat. It's actually me, it's like vegetarian food and vegan food every single day, and you can't even take meat with you to school. If you take meat with you to school, they will send you back. And I think if that's the direction we are going in, that is very concerning, because like in the Western world, we need our younger generation to be strong and to get taxpayers and for the younger generations to really find new ideas to kind of um, uplift our economy, because at least in the West, it's not looking very good. In Finland, it's not looking very good. We have a lot of old people. The younger generations are just shrinking, and if then what you're being fed in school, where you should be learning all of these things, if you're then being fed a very inappropriate diet which doesn't support your learning, I think we are going to be in even more trouble, 10 to 15 years from now, if that's the direction we're going in. Because we also talked about earlier, about the studies showing children eating eggs and how big of an impact just adding some eggs into your diet. I think it's like 1 egg a day, and child will be significantly more intelligent. They will have a bigger brain and be larger, just physically in size. And of what I've heard of people working in schools and in kindergartens, I've heard that many are vegans. Like there are lots of parents who they don't feed their children any meat or eggs or any animal product whatsoever. And I think that those children will struggle. They will really struggle with their peers. If not everyone is going to be eating that way. So these are things to be concerned about, definitely.
Yeah, and if I could add to that, just like,
Yeah.
For example, when I was working as a substitute, there was a group of 13 kids, and out of those 13 kids, 2 were allowed to eat red meat. All of the others were either vegan, vegetarian, or not allowed to eat red meat at all. And I think this is, just crazy.
Yeah.
And if this is the future we are set up for, humanity is doomed to fail, because people are becoming less fertile than ever before. People are becoming less intelligent by eating less animal products. And if there are less intelligent people, who will make all those advancements, who will bring humanity forward?
Yeah.
And we will just stagnate in place. And I think it's dangerous. I think it might be actually one of the bigger risks for humanity is depopulation, and the fact that obesity has basically taken over the Western world, at least, and just that the food has gotten so much worse for us. It's not appropriate for the human body, and it's making us, like, as a population, suffer. And I think this will have very dramatic effects in the future if nothing is done and we continue on this same path as we have now for the last, what is it, 67 years almost.
Yeah, at least since the 70s. And just if you take a look at like government spending, more and more is just going to healthcare, taking care of people who are sick and people who are getting older. And this will be, I think, in the next 50 to 100 years, if we can't solve it somehow, this will definitely be on top of the radar. This will be such a big problem. I'm not sure how we're going to solve this, but this
will
also
be catastrophic.
Yeah, definitely. Like if this is the trend we are going right now, it will be absolutely horrible, 30, 40 years from now. If not all governments in the Western world and the whole world like bankrupt, basically. And I think it's interesting to think about why is this the case? Because, no way your government is that stupid to push forward an agenda that will, in the long term, just break itself. And of course, there's a lot of money at play here. You have a lot of food companies, you have a lot of pharmaceutical companies that make a lot of money on the back end. But for everyone who is talking about the environmental impact, because I think this is a very very interesting topic as well, because that is usually one of the bigger arguments for where you should go plant-based and start skipping the red meat is for the environment, that we have global warming, and eating red meat, like you really just speed it up. And although that might be true. I don't think the path that we are on right now is like more sustainable in any way, because if you go to a supermarket or something, I mean, and we can first of all debate how much pollution and everything does cows actually do. Is it that bad that is it is it so bad that mainstream media says? Because I have a feeling here that it's the same thing with all these other studies, that it's a little bit maybe drastically putting out there. So I'm not 100% convinced that it's the case that cows are this very evil thing, because cows and animals, they are very natural. They're very much a natural part of the ecosystem, and they've always been here. I think like fossil fuels are then a more unnatural thing because they are taken up from the ground. But where I was going was really that the path that we're right now on, where we have supermarkets where there are 60,000 different products. 99% of them are all plant-based. And when you think about the plant-based products, they're always wrapped in plastic. And from where do they come? They come from all across the world. So you have a lot of transportation and lots of packaging. You have a lot of labor that goes in there. And then on the back end, you have people getting sick, needing even more resources to just, keep living. So I think the problem is a lot bigger than just, oh, red meat. That is the thing that is just kind of the problem in the whole. What do you think about that?
Yeah, so definitely like the path right now is not looking too good.
Yeah.
And for example, when you were talking just about like all these different medical companies and food companies and stuff, I just read a interesting article about how statins have tripled in price recently.
That's
So
interesting.
of course, they are making more money than ever before. People are scared, and I'm not sure how many it was, but it's a considerable amount of at least the Finnish population who are put on statins because, for example, like cholesterol is so demonized.
Yeah.
And people think that it is the end of you if you have a bit high LDL cholesterol, and
Yeah.
you are basically forced to take statins. The doctors are forced to prescribe you statins.
Yeah.
And also, when talking about like the population decline, if like, okay, the thing they're talking about is that we should become more sustainable, and I agree. If humanity wants to continue forwards, we should come up with new ways to get more sustainable, but we won't do that if we kill ourselves in the process.
Yeah.
Because what will there even be to keep sustainable if there is no humanity left?
Yeah.
And everything just goes downwards because we have become so decoupled from reality that we are no longer eating like a species proper diet, and people are just becoming more sick than ever. More money than ever before is going to healthcare. The healthcare and just the social welfare budgets are ballooning in size every single year. More people than ever before are getting sick. More people than ever before are on all these kinds of disability leaves and this stuff. And the underlying solution is not to overhaul all of these welfare systems, because that's not the issue. The issue is that more people than ever before are getting unhealthy. They are getting unhealthy nutrition advice. They are following unhealthy guidelines, unhealthy diets, and they are becoming obese. And I think obesity is, in today's world, one of the biggest threats to us in general, because it puts so much stress on the economy, on just all of our society in general, because it really does affect more things than just people's health in general. Someone might think, oh, well, it doesn't really matter that much if someone is overweight, but they have a astronomically bigger chance of getting all kinds of different diseases, disabilities, and these things cost society so much money. Like, it's absolutely insane when you just compare how much money goes to treating all of these things, and in the long term this won't be sustainable in any way. There is really nothing we can do to stop the collapse of our societies if we continue on the same path as we are right now. And it won't be enough to try and fix the economy. Like, the solution here is not just fix the economy because the economy is a bit broken. There is an underlying issue in the whole world, at least in the whole Western world here, where our societies are going in a direction which is not sustainable in any way for the future. And the things we are doing to try to make them look more sustainable, that are said to be more sustainable, is in reality making the problem even worse. And things like, of course, now I'm not talking about stuff like, as you said, energy production and all of this. Like, I think we should put so much more effort into developing things like nuclear power and all of this stuff, because it's the most efficient fuel source on the planet. Why not utilize it? Like, for example, here in Finland, there are so many, like, there is like so much potential to just develop the energy production in a more sustainable way, but instead they focus all of this on, oh, we have to build so many new solar farms, wind farms. They might work occasionally, but that's not a long-term solution. That's like applying a small, bandage to a massive wound. Yes, it might help for a bit, but in the long term it will start to rot and you will die from the infection. So I don't know, it's really looking bad, and I hope people start seeing what is happening around the world and how we really could change the direction that we are going in right now, because it's sad to see that I am pretty certain then that when I'm, older, the society that we live in today, I won't be enjoying the same kinds of benefits, living the same comfortable life as, people are able to right now, because there won't be money left for it. Unless there is some kind of technological revolution where humans are no longer like forced to do anything themselves. But then that comes with a whole nother bag of things, which maybe should be left for some other time.
Yeah, definitely. But I think this was a very, very good conversation. I think we covered quite a bit of things, kind of these big trends in the world. And these are definitely things that I think should be, talked about more. I think, politicians should 100% be talking about more about how to actually fix the root problems in everything, not just look at very short-term fixes for these big problems, because we are in a crisis right now. If our governments and we as a people, if we don't do anything now, and if we don't speed up the process of like innovation and basically just basically switch the direction where we're going, as you said, we're going to have massive problems in the future. And I think it's just vital. We just have to do it. We just have to change things up, because otherwise it will not be a fun fun future for us. But thank you very much, Emil, for joining me today, and of course
Thank
everyone.
you for having me.
And everyone go and subscribe to Emil's channel as well. 60-day carnivore challenge. And yeah, we will see you in the next one. Eat meat, take care, and have a wonderful rest of your day. Goodbye.